بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي واغفر لنا وارحمنا وأنت خير الغافرين. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. So we have a couple of things that we will speak about today. We'll start with the Zakah. When someone has some exports and imports, so he imports containers, he exports containers, how does he calculate his zakah? So the zakah for that specific person is not per container. So he doesn't need to pay zakah on each container he sells or on each goods he buys. So the person who has that business and importing and exporting needs to identify one day in the lunar calendar year. And that day needs to be his yearly day for paying zakat. He might say most of the people make it as the first day of Ramadan. So he might choose that first day of Ramadan and then pay his zakah on that day. What does that person need to do? First of all, he needs to identify all the trading goods. So if he is importing, exporting cans, importing, exporting rubbish bins, importing, exporting chairs, shoes, furniture, importing, exporting anything. So that is the good that he needs to identify. On that day, he needs to find out how much he has of these goods that he is trading or importing and exporting. For example, on that day, in his storages, on his books, he can sell his goods, not the cost. He can sell his goods for $2 million. So that's for him. That's an asset, that's money. So if he goes and sells these, for example, boxes of shoes, he will get $2 million. He will put this aside. Whatever he has in his company of furniture, shoes that he's wearing, he might be trading furniture. He might be selling and importing and exporting furniture. That furniture he pays for its zakah. The furniture that he is using in his company doesn't pay zakah on. Okay, anything that is used is not to pay zakah on, but the trading goods, they have to pay zakah, even if it's something that people use normally. So he will identify all the amount of goods that he has, how much if he would sell them, for how much he will sell them, not how much it costed him. So it might be that it costed him 1.5 million, but he's going to sell them for 2 million. So the actual money that he has is 2 million, not 1.5. Okay, so he will get that one. Number two, if he has profit that he collected from other sources, from selling. So in the bank, he has cash of, for example, 500,000. in the bank cash. So he will take that $500,000, put them on top of the $2 million. So that's $2.5 million. And then number three, he might have sold people some of his goods by installments. And these installments are to be paid within the next maybe 5-6 months. He needs to calculate that, because he knows that he's getting that money. So this is called debt that is most likely to be paid. Dain marju sadat. So most likely it's going to be paid. So that needs to be counted on top of the wealth of that person to pay zakah on. Sometimes he will have a debt that he will know that that person is not going to pay. He does not count it as an income or as part of his wealth because it's not coming. Okay? I calculate all these and pay zakah unless I have debts. So if I have debts, then I need to remove the amount of debt that I have from all of that. So I might have, for example, all of my wealth are goods. So goods of shoes, $2 million worth of shoes. And then I have a debt of $500,000 because I don't have cash to pay. Then I will remove from the 2 million, 0.5, which is $500,000, and then I will pay zakah on the 1.5 million. Okay? So this is how we calculate zakah of the imports and exports. So the person who is working in trading, selling, exporting, importing, selling goods, buying goods, he needs at certain stage stop, calculate. It's good if that person wants, he can do it based on his financial year. But the problem with that is that we are entitled to pay our zakat once every lunar year, not every calendar year, Gregorian year. So he needs to identify it to be before, if he wants, but he needs to stick to the lunar year. So it will move by year. So it's not going to help him a lot. It might help him for some time, and then after that it's not going to help him. Because usually people at the end of the financial year, they will do lots of accounting and calculate everything that they have and go over the assets and the finances. So this is the zakah of the imports and exports for those who are importing and exporting goods. Any question about that? Yes.
If the installment is in over 3 years, how much he need to calculate?
So that's still his asset. Even if it's over 3 years, he owns that money. End of the day, it's coming to him. Okay, so it's part of his wealth. So he needs to pay zakat on the whole amount. Okay. Any question? All good? Okay. Second is taking donation from and donating to non-Muslims. And this is usually a question that comes a lot about, can I donate? Can I pay charity for non-Muslims, for non-Muslim organizations? So, taking donations from non-Muslims, of course, it's acceptable. Unless the money is known that it is from purely haram source. Like the money is coming from drugs, or the money is coming from laundry, or the money is coming from corruption, or the money is coming from all of these haram sources, then we cannot take that money as a donation. And there is a difference about whether the interest money can be taken as donation or cannot be taken as donation. If the source of money is doubtful source, then it's acceptable to take that money as a donation as it's on them. So sometimes the people who are donating, they are trading in things and they have their account they have in the bank, so they are taking some interest on their money, or whatever they are doing is doubtful, is mixed between halal and haram. For Muslims to take these donations from them is acceptable because it's the general transaction that is coming to the Muslims, so that is donation, that's acceptable. As for that, it's on them. How do we know about that? Allah mentioned about the Jews in Medina, كانوا لا يتناهون عن منكر فعلوه. No, the other verse, which is وأخذهم الربا وقد نهوا عنه. They used to take riba, interest, although they were prohibited from. That's about the Jews. The Jews were in Medina with the Prophet ﷺ. So the Jews used to be the ones who used to take riba, interest. Yet the Prophet ﷺ used to take from them the money for the country, for the support of the Muslim country. So that's where the scholars said, if this is the case, then you can take from the money of the non-Muslims, whether it's a tax, whether it's a donation, whether it's in any form, because the Prophet ﷺ took the Jews' money when they were living in Medina with him. And although they usually used to have interest, still the Prophet ﷺ took from them the money. Okay? Collective opinion of scholars that donations can be paid to non-Muslims. You can donate to the Muslims. And the Prophet ﷺ said, in every wet kidney there is a reward. في كل كبد رطبة أجر. So if you help, support any creature, the Prophet ﷺ said, wet kidney, it's like alive. If you fed a bird, you take reward or not? Of course. Anything that is alive and you give them support, you give them food, you give them anything, you take reward by Allah Azza wa Jal. What about the human beings? So donating to the human beings, so long as you are knowing that your money is being used in the right direction, not donating to them and the money will be taken for drugs or for buying alcohol or for any of these. But donating for them, to buy them some food, to support them in their life, for their needs in their life, that's acceptable. Like donating, for example, for those who are disabled, those who are on cancer, donating for them is acceptable. But you cannot pay the zakah for them. You cannot pay the zakah for them. So zakah is almost no argument about zakah, except some, like for example, some countries who have a big portion of their citizens as non-Muslims, they sometimes are inclined to pay zakah even for the non-Muslims, based on like the dhimma people, those who used to be under the protection of Islam. In some cases they used to be paid zakat from the zakat money. So that's how they build that concept of, yes, they can pay the non-Muslims. The categories, the 8 categories of the zakah, it can take one under non-Muslims category, which is al-mu'allafati qulubuhum, those who you want to incline their hearts towards Islam. It can be that you end up paying for non-Muslims because you are willing for them to become Muslims. So you are getting them to Islam. Zakah is not permissible to be paid to non-Muslims, and so we can pay from our donation, but we should not pay from our zakah to any non-Muslim. So we can take, so long as it's not coming from purely haram source, we can give so long as it's not from the zakah. Any question?
Just a question. So with the category that you mentioned, those that you want to entice towards Islam, how would you define that? Is it based on your intention? Is it based on their need? Is it based on...
Usually it's based on you see in them some inclination.
Okay.
And then you support that inclination. It's not an open. So you see someone who is not interested in Islam, you don't give him. But you see someone who's asking questions. Well, I'm comfortable about Islam, and I really think that Islam is... So with that, you have some money from the zakah, and you see that he is struggling with his rent or with paying, you just give him from the zakah in order to incline his heart more towards Islam. Yes?
This one asked, taking charity from non-Muslim, is it acceptable for a Muslim to take charity from the Salvation Army?
Is it acceptable to take charity from the Salvation Army? Based on this, yes, it is. Okay? It's better to get your income from your work, as we all know as Muslims, but there is no harm of taking that charity from anywhere. Okay? Now, this is something really interesting, which is buying gold using bank cards. Is it permissible or not? I'm going to buy some gold, I use my bank card. Can I or I can't? So, we have three types of cards that the banks usually use. We have the debit cards, and the debit cards are the cards that have debit on them, and these are always, as soon as you buy, the money will go out from your account on the spot. So that type of transaction, that type of card is acceptable and no problem. Even though that transaction might take a day or two to go to the account of the other person, but it's been guaranteed. So it's been paid. And that person who took the purchase by the card from you accepts that, no problems. Okay? As if it went into his account. So it will appear into his account, but it will not be cleared except maybe 1 or 2 business days. Why we are saying that? Because gold has a specific way of dealing with it. So, in the hadith, Ubadah ibn Samit and Muawiyah met at a stopping place on the road. Ubadah told them, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ forbade selling gold for gold, silver for silver, wheat for wheat, barley for barley, dates for dates. One of them said salt for salt, but the other did not say it, unless it was like for like, hand to hand. And he commanded us to sell gold for silver, or silver for gold, and wheat for barley, and barley for wheat, and to hand however we wanted. And one of them said, whoever gives more or asks for more, he engaged in riba. So what does that mean? There are two things here. Gold for gold, the other which is hand to hand, like for like. Okay? So, if I have a piece of gold and I want to replace it with another piece of gold, I cannot come and say, here is gold, what can I buy? Unless the weight of that first piece that I gave equals to the weight of that piece that I am buying, which will definitely not be. Because if you want to do that, if you sell a gold piece, you sell it for less than the amount that you purchased it for. And then when you want to purchase another gold piece, it will be less weight. That's why when you are swapping gold, you cannot. And you should not. So what you should do, you should sell the piece, and he will say, oh, you have $5,000. Pick. No. Give me the $5,000. Put the money in your pocket. Now the first transaction is finished. Now you can look for something else and buy. Okay? Why? Because we said, as the Prophet ﷺ said, gold for gold is not permissible. If you want, you can swap with the same weight, like for like. Hand to hand. So this is the other criteria. Hand to hand, it needs to be paid on the spot. Hand gives the money, hands take the gold. Done. You cannot buy using credit. Okay? So, that's why debit cards for buying gold and this stuff, someone will say, oh my God, look what do we have here? Wheat, we have barley, we have dates, we have salt. Does that mean I cannot buy these except by direct transaction, hand to hand? This is the key. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said. So with this, credit cards are very big question marks. To buy this stuff, So you cannot buy except hand by hand. Whereas the credit card itself, it's a credit. So meaning that you are buying and you might not be paying now. You have some time to buy that for. So if I'm going, for example, to buy a piece of gold using my credit card, although the credit card will give me 30 days to pay it, but the bank is going to pay it for that gold, and I'm not going to pay it now. I'm going to pay it maybe later, after 10 days or 20 days. I already took it. It needs to be hand by hand. This is what the hadith says. Hand takes the money, the gold, hand gives the money. With the credit card, it did not happen. That's why we cannot use the credit cards to buy gold or silver. And do you want to extend it to these? Based on the hadith, yes, it extends to these, all of these items. So it is very tricky. Of course, there are some Islamic banks that have credit cards, but they have a different way of dealing with the credit cards. They ask the person to put money sufficient for the amount he is buying. And these types of credit cards is like a debit card. But they are called credit cards because some transactions or some payments require that type of cards. So the Islamic banking around the world, they put that money on top of or next to that card. And so it becomes like a debit card, although it's a credit card, just to facilitate the transaction. With that type of credit card in the Islamic bank, it is permissible to buy gold with that type of credit card because it's already there and the bank will just take the money straight away and pay it to that person. So it's on the spot, hand by hand. But in the commercial banks, it's not. Some will say if you have in your account that's the amount of money in the commercial bank, you can, although the majority of the scholars said no, you can't, even if you have that amount in your bank. So, better, and previously I remember when we used to have the debit cards, we used to struggle with them. But nowadays, the debit cards can be used everywhere. So you don't need to worry about it. It's just a debit card and it's from your own money, and if you don't have money in your account, it's not going to go through. So this is how we need to use for especially these items. Yes?
Is car trading then is allowed or not?
Car trading?
So I have an old car, I go to the dealer, so I give my car and some money and then I try to get another car, which is...
That's not included in the hadith. So it's permissible, it has no problems. Because it's not included. These are the items that we cannot. These are specific items.
So it's not like for like doesn't cover that?
No, like for like is only for these.
Okay.
Other items you can. Okay? So you can replace a carpet by a carpet, or a car by a car. But this car is definitely different than this car.
So what about, for example, if I have a farm and I'm importing wheat, okay, and the person that I'm importing the wheat from gives me an invoice, and it says pay it by this date.
It's supposed to be hand by hand.
So that means in that case it's not allowed.
It's not allowed to. These are the items that we should not purchase except hand by hand.
Okay, so with the wheat, is it like a bag of wheat? What about if it's wheat bix or something?
No, it's the actual wheat.
Just the bag of wheat.
Yeah, the actual wheat. So we need to be careful about that. Okay? Why are these being mentioned? Especially. And anything extra is riba, interest. What categories can we put this under? And this is how the scholars actually thought. Why did the Prophet ﷺ mention especially these? Why not the rice? Because if you look at it, these are the most expensive, valuable, and these are the food of the people. Some scholars argued, but hold on, the rice now is the food of the people, is the key. So that's how some of the scholars actually included the rice in these categories based on how the Prophet ﷺ chose, how did he choose all of these things. So based on they are the basic food of the people, then the basic food of the people now is rice, and so some of the scholars included rice in the riba. And so you cannot deal with rice except hand by hand. And except if you are replacing rice by rice, it needs to be the same amount. Alright, so this is buying gold using bank cards, and obviously you cannot buy gold by installments because it needs to be hand by hand.
So just to clarify, if you want to go to the shop and buy a ring or earrings for your wife or whatever, it has to be debit card.
It has to be debit card, and it has to be or cash.
Mm-hmm.
So the money goes from your account on the spot.
And if you have gold left over at home and you take it to like cash converters and you get money from it, no problem.
No problem.
It's not gold for gold.
Yes. Alright. The next one is about selling cash versus selling installments. We have spoken about, last time we spoke about murabaha, and we spoke about murabaha is different than selling by installments. We said murabaha can be by installments or can be without installments. Okay? But now we speak about selling cash and selling by installments. The question here is sometimes if you come to someone and say, I want to buy this car, he will say, okay, cash is 3,000, installments is 4,000. Is this allowed or not? The answer is yes, it is allowed. Because definitely, and in one of the strong opinions of Imam Malik, that the cash price definitely is not equal to the installment price, because there is time frame that is involved in there. So yes, you can come to someone who is selling by installments or by cash and get the price of the cash, get the price of the installments, and then choose. You can bargain until you both agree on that, and then you can choose to buy it by installment or by cash, and there's no harm with that. Okay? Even if the price of the installments is higher than the cash, as we said, because there is no cheating, and this is the key, that nobody is cheating. So he's selling, he's honest, clear in front of the person, here's the cash price, here's the installment price, you pick it. Nowadays, we have the cash equals to the installment price with the zero interest selling. But as we spoke about last time, there is a very big question mark about these interest-free cars, interest-free appliances. They all incur interest after a certain period of time. If you do not cover the cost within 12 months, 24 months, 48 months, then it will incur interest. And you will sign that contract that if you do not pay within that period of time, then you are going to pay interest. So these are very big question marks. Even though you will find people saying it is halal, but it's an interest contract at the end of the day. So we have the Jamiah. The Jamiah that people speak about. What is the Jamiah or the group? It's very popular in all the countries, which is a group of 10 people, 20 people come together and say, we are going to put every month 1,000 or 2,000. So everyone, like 15 people, come together, everyone put 2,000, that's 30,000 people. Then they draw who's going to take it first, who's going to take it second, and so on. And then they will keep paying for 10 months or 15 months, and then everyone takes it and everyone goes home. So this Jamiah has a dispute, I would say, between the scholars, whether it's halal or not. So the group that say it's halal, they refer that every money that you have given, you have taken. So you've given certain amount of money, you've taken certain amount of money, and they're both equal. So there is no interest in it, no addition. All of this goes around one rule, which is any loan that cause benefit, it's a riba. Any loan that result in benefit, it's a riba. So this is the big rule. So I gave you that camera for you to use. Or I gave you some money for you to use. That's a loan. You gave me the money and you gave me a flower. That flower is riba. Why? Because there is an addition on top. So that addition, any loan that resulted in a benefit, it's a riba, it's an interest. It's very, very tiny. Some scholars say the benefit that we speak about is physical benefit only. Like, for example, someone loans to someone for his company $100,000, and he will return it $100,000. But he's going to hire his son in the company. That's a loan that resulted in benefit. Correct? So that's riba. Any benefit you can get if you loan someone out some money, he give it back to you, and on the side anything else came with that loan, it's a riba. Yes?
So for example, someone wants to get married and they did this Jamiah, and the guy took the amount of money that came and he used it for his marriage.
Yes.
That counts.
So we are still speaking about it. So this is not based on the group that says, because this person is going to pay back. Based on the group that says the amount is being taken equals to the amount that was given physically, it's not riba. So the other group of scholars, they say, but hold on, the one who took it first, he has benefit. There is a benefit coming there. And so, this is a question mark.
What would the benefit be that he took it before everyone else?
Yes.
Because essentially, whenever somebody loans you money, you're going to use it for something, to buy a car. So the benefit is not with what you do with it. It's just based on the system of getting it first.
Correct. The benefit is getting it first.
Yeah.
How about if you get it last then?
So the question is, with that group or Jamiah, they actually, it's built on supporting. It needs to be built on supporting to be halal. So if the person gives out his money out of willing to support others, then that person needs to be in his intention and acts supporting the others. So how does that come? For example, if the person who took it first disappeared, what the others are going to do? Chase him up. You need to bring back the money. You need to pay back the money that you took. That means that these people who paid the money did not pay it for support. They paid it maybe for support, but they have some interest in them. That's where these types of scholars said that Jamiah is question mark. But yet you have big number of scholars that say it's okay because the amount of money you give is the amount of money you take.
And it's an agreement as well.
Even if it's an agreement, just think about it of, is there a benefit coming?
It's like when you're taking a huge amount of money in a one, lump. It's a benefit. Other than that, it's the same.
Other than that, it is the same.
Yeah.
So there is a benefit, especially for the first people. Yes.
If due to installment, the price can vary. So definitely the person who is taking first is getting some benefit.
So this is another argument. That, for example, if it's for a year or a year and a half, the value of the money for the one who takes it first might be different. Like, for example, imagine last year we did a Jamiah. Like the Turkistanis. Turkistanis do Jamiahs with 500,000.
My community, they do it a lot.
Yeah.
All the time, yeah.
No, one Jamiah for 500,000 for that person to buy a house. And this is how they bought their houses, by the way. So the majority of Turkistanis, they have their own houses by this way. So they are very close community, they work together. So imagine someone took it last year. It's 500,000. And someone is taking it this year. The one who took it last year with the $500,000 is going to get a house that the one that will take it this year will not get the same house for the same amount. So there is a benefit now that is coming, and this is a disadvantage for the other one because the value is now changing. Yes?
So in the case of, let's say, I give a loan to somebody and then that somebody runs away, is it any different to the case of the...
Of course, that's a different story. Because you loaned your money to someone with the intention that he pays you back.
Yes.
You are not benefiting anything.
Okay, so if he runs away and I chase him up...
No problems. You have to chase him up because this is your money. You cannot just leave him away with your money. You have to chase him.
So one thing in the Jamiah, Abu Baida, how about if we have an agreement? We're going to put, like, example, that says $10,000 each for a certain period of time. Then we put it in the same place until, like, let's say 12 months, we'll have a share, each one of us. Is that way halal or haram as well?
So everyone will put $10.
Let's say 10,000.
10,000. Everyone will put 10,000 every month.
Yeah.
Until the end, we accumulate all of that and then we distribute it again.
Yeah.
So there is no benefit in that. Everyone is just as if he is saving on his own. So he's saving on his own and he's taking the money he saved at the end. I don't know why you come together for that. There is no reason for coming together. Because I can save 10,000, 10,000, 10,000, 10,000. At the end I can. Some people, like in previously, they wanted to go to Hajj and they can't hold their hand. Usually they find money in the account, and they wanted to go to Hajj and they came to me and said, I want to go to Hajj and I can't hold my hand. I said, okay, give me every month 1,000 or 2,000. I'll put it in an account, separate account, and when it comes to Hajj, I'll bring you back your money. So you can actually go for Hajj. So this is how the people save, if that is the case. Okay? All right. So, going forward,
So Jamiah is haram.
I'm not saying it's haram. I'm saying it is doubtful.
Okay.
Some scholars said it's halal because the amount that you give is equal to the amount that you take. Some scholars say there is a benefit there. And any loan that results in benefit is riba. There is a non-physical benefit, but it's actually a benefit that comes from the advantage that people take when they take it first. They consider that as a benefit.
What about if that's agreed upon? Like,
Even if it's agreed upon, so there are some people who are advantaged over some people who are disadvantaged, and the people who are advantaged, if they escape with the money, people will chase them up. So that means that even though they agreed, but from internally, it's not for the purpose of support, but I'm entering there because I want it for me.
So even if I have the intention, if one person run away, I forgive them in the bottom of my heart.
That's fine.
And then I take the money at the end, like the last person.
That's fine.
Okay.
But not everyone needs to be in the same boat.
But for me, it means it's halal for me in that case.
Yeah, but it needs all of those who are participating need to be in the same boat, the same intention. Okay? Partnership versus shares. So I'm establishing a company. I'm a partner. I'm buying shares in the company. I'm not a partner, even though I have shares now in this company. So there are two different rules for each one of them. So for buying shares, sometimes the company will deal with interest. The majority of the work of the company is lawful things, like they are manufacturing TVs, selling TVs. That's fine. They are dealing with interest. The majority of the work is halal. I'm buying shares in that company. Can I buy shares in that company knowing that they deal with interest? Yes, I can. Okay? But I want to start as a partner in a company, and that company is going to deal with interest. No, you can't. See the difference between the two? So buying shares in a company, you did not establish that company. That company is dealing with interest, with a portion of that, that's fine. And we will put the caveats, what to do. But I am starting a company that's going to deal with interest. No, it's not. You are not allowed. You will be liable. You will be accountable in front of Allah if that company that you are a partner in is dealing with something haram. If the person is buying shares, no problems, even if the company is dealing with the interest, under 4 conditions. The amount of money of the company borrowed by interest is less than 30%. I'm speaking here about the European Fatwa Council fatwa about buying shares in companies. But if that company has over 50% of their money being loaned from the bank by interest, then you cannot. So they say that it needs to be maximum up to 30%, so 1/3 of the company is being borrowed by the bank on interest, or maximum they put 30% of their money in the bank for the purpose of interest as an income. So if they are putting as part of their income profit 50% of their cash in the bank in order to take the interest and count it as profit on them, then it's not allowed. So it needs to be 30% borrowing maximum for their operation, 30% putting money and taking interest on it. The profit that is coming from interest must not exceed 5%. And then finally you need to clear it. So if you are buying share in that company, make sure that that company does not borrow more than 30% for operational, does not put more than 30% of its money in the bank in order to get an income. The maximum interest income is 5%, and you need to clean it, meaning that if I discover that that company in their financial report they are saying that 4% of their income is coming from interest, then whatever I take from that company, 4% need to be cleaned. So I need to take it out from mine. So even though they have a portion of it is dealing with interest, that portion needs to be taken out of my income, my profit coming from these shares. But as we said, if the person is a partner not buying shares, then it's unacceptable for him to accept any dealings that are haram. But if he's buying shares, no problems. He can accept to be buying shares in companies that deal with interest under these 4 caveats. Any question about that?
So for the partnership, if they go in with the intention of everything being
Halal.
And then later down the track, say one person decides
to go to the haram section, he's liable, he's accountable.
Yeah, and the other person just has to give up their ownership.
He needs to get out of there because he's a partner. So anyone who is going to use their service with the unlawful transactions, then he's going to be accountable.
There is also, I think, companies where you can actually buy shares, and these companies, I think they call them ETFs. So they do trades, with so many different things, and part of that could be
Haram product.
So
that's why we said the product needs to be halal, but if there is a haram coming from interest, then you can clear it. But if the product itself is haram,
or part of it is haram.
now if part of it is haram, you have two options. Either you just don't come close, or if you can identify in the for example, financial statement at the end, how much profit is coming from each part, then you can clear it and take the part that is halal.
Which is very hard to do.
Which is very hard most of the time to do. EFTPOS machines and cash out. And is it permissible, or taking cash out from an ATM in a different country or from a different bank, and all of these things? Is it permissible or not? So, number one, if the EFTPOS machine is giving the person a cash out, and the amount that is getting inside the account is equal to the amount that is being taken by that person, then there is no problem with that. Okay? Where does the problem happen? The problem happens with the complication of the charge per transaction on the EFTPOS machine when it comes to taking anything or buying anything. Like, for example, when you go buy from any restaurant here, some restaurants, they will say, oh, if you are paying by EFTPOS, we are charging you 5% extra. You are buying food, but you pay 5% extra. Why you are paying that 5% extra or 1% extra? Because they are getting charged using that machine. So that 1% is for the usage of that EFTPOS machine. That type of transaction is okay, no problems. But if there is cash out involved, there is a problem. Because you are going to pay more than what you are taking. The transaction needs to be clearly the same amount that you give on the card, take from the cash. You cannot have one more than the other. Sometimes, if you go to a different bank with your card, with the ATM, they will charge you on top of what you pull out or you withdraw from the bank. If the charge is a small amount for administration fees, flat $2, whether you withdrew $1,000, $5,000, $10, they charge $2 per transaction administration fee for the money to be transferred between the banks. Then the scholar said that's okay. If you are pulling cash, and this happens usually if you go overseas and you withdraw cash from ATMs of overseas banks, they charge percentage. If it is percentage, it's haram, because it's a purely riba. If it is a specific amount for the administration fees, then it is acceptable. And it needs to be not varying with the amount. Okay? If you buy from overseas using your card and they take the charge for that transaction, that's fine. But if you are pulling out cash, that's where it is not permissible. So it needs to be clear that when I go overseas with my debit card, I buy things, not I withdraw cash. And if I want to withdraw cash, I need to make sure that the cash that I withdraw is not going to be charged as a percentage based on how much I'm withdrawing from that machine. It is really critical and people just fall in it, although it's purely riba. It's purely interest when you deal with it. Yeah.
So, like practically speaking, if you go to a place and they only take cash and they say, oh, there's a little EFTPOS cash out thing in the corner, and you put your card in, and I'm with ANZ and it's like something else, but there's a fee of $2.50 and I take $100 out, but it's a flat fee of $2.50.
Yeah, we consider it as administration, that's fine. All right? The last thing, which is fast, about inheritance from known source as haram. Can I inherit, for example, if my father, I know that his money is haram. My father has been working in the bank for all of his life. So all of his wealth is coming from his work in the bank, which is a commercial bank. And this is haram. Can I inherit from him? So, the scholar said, if the money has been stolen, if the money is because of corruption, so it's a right of someone else, then definitely that needs to be paid back for the people who have the right in that money. You cannot inherit that money because it's not your father from the first place. It's been taken from the others. But if the money was because of a haram source, whether he was trading in something haram or not, they say it's better to distribute between the people who will inherit and leave it for everyone, as there is a difference between the scholars whether you can take as this transaction from inheritance from your father to you is a legal transaction compared to the transaction from the money coming from him to your father. So those who allow that to happen, they allow it. Those who say it's allowed, they say take the necessary for you. Don't take much. Just whatever you are in need for. It's better not to take. Because you know that the source, and some who say that it is haram actually to inherit money that was coming from a riba, say that riba is the right of other people that was taken from them. And this is their argument about saying that you should not inherit any money that's coming from riba, because not the right of your father, for example, to take that money from riba, because it's right of others. So it is very tricky, and the person needs to have his own decision on that, because he is not going to be questioned, and he needs to justify in front of Allah how he accepts to take money that is coming from a haram source. If it's from not permissible, as we said, you cannot. But if it's earned from haram source, but the money was taken by agreement, then there is a difference of opinion. It's better to stay away from it. That's it for today. Anyone has any question? جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.